You're watching Head Start TV, parenting education for your best investment, our children. Head Start TV, produced by Albina Head Start, because we believe it takes an entire community to raise a child. Welcome to a special edition of Head Start TV. We are preparing to address one of the most important parenting skills you will ever develop, having a structure and developing and sticking to a daily routine. Albina Head Start believes that parents are the best teacher and that you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. We're going to examine the daily routine of a Head Start classroom and get advice on how parents can develop a structure and daily routine in their lives. So join us for a special edition of Head Start TV, Structure and Routine. I'm your host, Lanita Duke. Why does Head Start the morning with a circle time?
We start the morning with circle time with Head Start because it's a good way to get all the children together, to come together as a whole group, to sing together, to talk together, to listen to each other, and it builds language, it builds self-concept and self-esteem, and just a positive, warm way to start the day.
How can parents translate what you're doing here in circle time in their homes?
One thing they can do is get up in the morning and do some kind of good morning with their child, just saying good morning to them. You know, start the day out positive. Hope you have a good day when they drop their child off. Give their child a hug and greet their teachers because the kids care a lot about their teachers. And just give them that little warm nurturance before they leave and start their day out positively.
Our children need structure in their lives. Your children need a routine. Every day, be consistent from sunup to sundown, because you can't know where you're going in life unless you know where you've been. This message brought to you from Head Start TV, because at Head Start TV, we believe parents are the best teacher. Hi, welcome back to Head Start TV. My name's Lanita Duke, and with me is our most esteemed director of Albina Head Start, Mr. Ronnie Herndon. Ronnie, our topic today is structure and routine. As we look at the structure and routine at Albina Head Start, you wrote a lot of this, or you rather had staff write it, you came up with it. Why did you do it, and how does it flow?
Well, in the classroom, it's a lot easier for both the children and the staff if there is a structure of activities. When the children come in, they know that they will have a period of time for free play when they can go to any of the activity centers and they can do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anybody else and they are not doing anything that will harm the toys or the material. And they know that at 9 o'clock, after they've eaten, then we begin with what's called circle time. It's an activity where all the children sit in a circle and the teacher talks about perhaps the weather, activities that they're going to be involved in during the day, or what they did the night before. After that, they might go into different smaller groups, where the children divided up in groups of 4 or 5 in the different interest areas with a teacher or a teacher assistant, to begin working on particular skills. The day is structured like that. When you hear structure, oftentimes people think that, well, it doesn't give the child time to be a child and play and have fun. In fact, that's not true, because there are times that are built in for the children to do just that. But there are also times that they know that there's certain activities that they will be participating in. That helps the child to know that when you come to Head Start, and certainly when you go into school, there is a certain routine that you will be expected to follow. And following a routine or a structure, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be bad, as long as you keep it interesting. If we had them coming in and started out with push-ups, calisthenics, and sit still for the next hour while an adult talks to them, yes, that'd be a structure and it'd be routine, but it'd be a very boring structure and a dumb routine. So the trick we found is to make sure that the activities are suitable for the child's age. And most children, 3 and 4 years old, they're not going to be able to listen to someone talk to them for a half an hour. The activities are going to have to be quite interesting. They're going to have to be activities that they can participate in, that they can move around, as you've seen today, that they're able to talk. Unfortunately, often when we get children in school, we tell them, sit down and be quiet. Well, children at this age are naturally curious. They have a million questions, and it's our job to channel the curiosity, show them how and when they can ask questions, and answer their questions and make it fun. When you translate that into the home, somebody says, well, boy, it sounds like a lot. How can I replicate that at home? A couple of ways. Starting out in the morning, you have a morning routine now. You may not call it a routine, you may not call it structure, but before the child goes to school, there are certain things I'm quite sure that happen almost every day. Get up, go wash your hands, put on your clothes, and probably the clothes that the parent, perhaps with the child, laid out the night before. Come eat. After you eat, take your dishes off the table, go brush your teeth, put on your coat, and meet me outside, or I'm going to take you outside, and we're going to either ride to school, walk to school, or catch the bus. That's a structure. That's a routine. That makes a lot of sense. In the afternoon, often in Head Start, we will send home homework. And sometimes people hear that and they think, oh, they got those little kids doing term papers or book reports, so it's not that at all. But they are activities that support and reinforce lessons or activities that the child has been involved in during the day. And we ask that parents help them with that homework. It's the parent's choice about when they want the homework activity to take place. But I do believe there should be a time that occurs every day. And if you find it's better to do that in the evening after supper, then that would be homework time. If you find it would be better for the family and for the child to do it before supper, then make that homework time. But whenever it's chosen, you should really keep to it, because just as in the morning, the child is used to doing certain things and in a structure and a routine, it helps if the child knows in the evening, wow, when I come home, I can play or I can read. As soon as I get home, then I expect to eat, and then we'll do homework. So the child knows that there is a certain routine that he or she will be following. It makes life a lot simpler. Will you always be able to follow the routine and the structure? No, it's no different than the rest of life. Oftentimes our best laid plans do go astray, but most of the time, if we have a structure that makes sense, and that's fun. Homework is, for us, is not something that's tortuous. It's not something that children hate. It's fun. And as long as we keep the structure and the routine sensible, understand that at times we won't be able to keep to it, but that should not be common. It should be the exception. And two, for children, it should be fun and a learning activity. So in doing that, we found that, at least for us in Head Start, that it works very well for the children. It works very well for the staff. And we have a lot of fun with the activities, and we think in the end the children certainly do benefit from an organized structure and routine.
Ryan, let me ask you a couple questions. As you know, we have a lot of young parents growing up in various kind of environments where structure and routine is not established because they never learned it.
Sure.
For example, they got to go to bed when they wanted to. They wake up when they want to. What would you say to a family like that? And we're not talking about, we just want them to improve themselves, right? Because they need to establish this kind of routine and structure for their lots to improve in life. What would you say to a family like that? How do you go about establishing a structure and routine when you've never had any, and you've never been exposed to any, or you thought it was such a crazy way to live, or you didn't appreciate it back then, but certainly now you do, now that you have children?
Well, all of the things that you and I just talked about are important in terms of establishing structure for a child. We talked about waking up in the morning. If your child is going to school and school starts at 8:30 or 9, it doesn't make sense to wake the child up at 8:15 and then start screaming and yelling about hurry up and get your clothes on and here's a Fig Newton bar on the way out the door. That's harmful for the child, and it puts a lot of unneeded pressure on the parent. If you know that school starts at 8:30, then I would suggest that you wake the child up no later than 7:30, perhaps at 7. Children, like the rest of us, move slow in the morning. Since you know that, then get them up a little bit earlier so that the preparation for school is not chaotic. It's not filled with a lot of yelling and screaming and rushing about. The child has time to get dressed, has time to eat, to brush their teeth, to wash up, and to leave on a happy note, not one of confusion and chaotic activity. And what you said about the evening is so very, very important. After the reading, or after the supper and you have homework time or reading, and we strongly suggest that parents read to their children every evening. And again, that should be at a structured time. What they watch on TV, I certainly am biased that I don't think it's healthy to allow young children to watch these TV shows that are filled with violent activities, such as a lot of murders, a lot of fighting, a lot of stabbing. And it has been shown today, there's a lot of research that substantiates the fact that if children see that, then the suggestion to them is that fighting, kicking, shooting is okay, and it's all right for them to do that in relationship with other children. We have had children as young as 3 years old who come into our Head Start centers who think it's okay to karate kick and punch other children because that's what they've seen. So in terms of structure and routine, I would suggest that parents not allow their children to watch a lot of the movies, a lot of what is on TV now, because some of it is very, very destructive. And I do agree that there should be a time every evening when children go to bed. I would suggest for 3 and 4-year-old children, 8:30 I think is a pretty good time to start hitting the sack. And if that's the time that a parent wants to read to a child before they go to bed, fine. They need their rest. I don't think it's healthy for 3 and 4-year-old children to be up to 10, 11 o'clock at night parked in front of a TV set or in front of Nintendo, Donkey Kong, or some other kind of video game. It's not healthy. They need a lot more rest than adults. So 8:30 to 9 o'clock, 3 and 4-year-old children, 5-year-old children should be in the bed. That's the kind of routine that is helpful for a child in growing up. They begin to understand that there are certain things that are going to recur every day, and by participating in those activities every day, that's the way that you learn, that's the way you begin to organize your life, and that's the way you're going to be organized when you get ready to go into public school. And when you learn those little tricks, you learn those little rules and begin to practice them, it's a lot easier going into public school. It's a lot easier to master some of the lessons that they teach or some of the routines that they have. I think that once we're able to do that, it makes life a lot easier for the parent and also for the child.
Ronnie, now we have some parents who, because of the crisis going on in the neighborhood or the crisis in their extended family, they may establish a routine and all of a sudden they throw it out the window. They live by crises. If you live like that, living with all that negativity, and sometimes it's beyond your control. Sometimes you can't control that. Sure. How can you establish a routine when you go from one crisis to another crisis to another crisis?
Well, I think first you have to figure out what's causing the crisis. There's an old proverb story about a guy who was standing by the river, and all these babies came floating by the river, and he spent the whole day running out rescuing babies out the river. And finally there was a pause. Somebody walked by and they asked what he was doing. He said he's rescuing babies out the river, and he was awfully tired. And then they said, perhaps we should go upriver and find out who's throwing the babies in or how they're getting in the river and stop that. Then you won't have to spend all your time rescuing them. And I think the same way about crisis. Let's figure out what's causing the crisis. Is the crisis around employment or lack of job, a lack of money? then that says to me then some time needs to be spent in acquiring more skills so that you will be able to access the job market and get paid more. Doesn't make any sense to keep saying, I don't get paid enough on my job when you may only have a high school education. The job market today is far more demanding, and they demand more skills. Then let's talk about going to community college and gaining the kind of skills, learning to be computer literate, learning other skills, learning how to write and read better. Unfortunately, we have far too many young people getting out of school, even with a high school education, who read very poorly and write very poorly. Okay, the high school did not do a good job, but at your age, it's up to you to go to a community college and get in a writing class or get in a reading class so that you can acquire the skills that will allow you to be independent and take care of your family. So again, figure out what's causing the crisis. Is the crisis in a particular relationship that you may have with another person? Well, I think, unfortunately, what I've seen is that there are some young women who are in relationships with men that are galloping crisis, and seems as if the man shows up on payday. When they know the check is coming through, that's when they show up, and it's good time Charlie then, and after the money runs out, they're gone until the next payday. Well, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's a very destructive relationship. It's destructive for the woman, and it's destructive for her children to see that the way the world works is that a man is interested in you when the money comes, and as long as I'm able to have money or other resources or me available to him, then he's interested. When that's not available, or when I'm sick, or when the kids are sick, or when they need something, he's no longer around. Well, yeah, that's a crisis situation, and I think that for the interest of the children, and I certainly do think for the interest of the young woman, let's get out of the crisis and let's have a conversation with our friend and say, hey, the relationship the way it is now is fairly destructive for me, at least, and let's talk about changing it if you want to. If you don't want to, no hard feelings. Let's just figure out some other way for us to be friends. So again, the idea is what is causing the crisis? If the crisis is with the child and the child's behavior, the advantage of Head Start is that we have people on staff. We have other resources we can access that can get children the kind of help that they need at a young age if they do have behavior problems, if they have what might be perceived as a learning problem, and in fact what you learn is that the child needs glasses or that they can't hear well. You think the child is just being stubborn when in fact a careful medical exam shows that they can't hear well. Well, we can do that when the child is young, while they're 3 and 4 years old. Can figure out if there is something going on physically that's preventing the child from paying attention or preventing the child from learning at a rate that we think they should. That's the advantage that we have in Head Start. And we encourage people who may not be in Head Start, that have young children, if you think something is wrong or the child's not developing at a rate that you think they should, give us a call and we'll put you in touch with people who can help and who can give the kind of professional diagnosis that will let you know whether the child does need additional help or that they're just learning at a different rate.
You're watching Head Start TV. Parenting education for your best investment, our children. Head Start TV, produced by Albina Head Start, because we believe it takes an entire community to raise a child. Gloria, let's say I come from a family where traditionally there's been no structure or routine, and I think I'm doing all right. I think I got it going on. How would it display itself that I have no structure or routine? I know what it shows in attendance and enrollment and different things like that, but how does it display itself, and how important do you think it is? And can a person that's never had any structure in their life, never had any positive routine in their life, how can they go about establishing that?
Well, the basic thing that we do, we go into the home or they come into our office and we do a needs assessment. And on this needs assessment is maybe a first thing that never happened to a parent before, and that's setting some goals. And we try to explain what a goal is. And sometimes related to their children, they can understand the goal. As far as I'd like them to know his name, her address, how to count numbers, colors, and so I will give them a couple of little clues on, what a goal might be. I said, because we need to also know what you expect. So that's making them a consumer of our positive Head Start program. And so when I asked them that, what would you like? And they would say, well, yeah, I want him to learn how to count, and I like him to tie his shoes. I mean, sometimes they're academic things, and sometimes I wish he would take a nap, or if he could play with other kids. He likes to fight, and he's the only kid, and he likes to keep all the toys. And, so I said, if we can write this down now as a goal, we can monitor it as time goes on, and then by the time the year is over, we can see the progress that we made. So it's just a subtle way to get into the structure. And mostly, no matter what family background or where you come from, people always love their children, and they feel that they have this child is the best. And even if they wouldn't have ordinarily wanted to do, get him up in the morning and put his clothes on, they get pride. And so that's what makes my job really easy, because we have their precious one, because our children are our future. So when you're interested in them and, trying to help them with their needs, it kind of works in a way that they didn't know before. Because a lot of them sit there and say, after I finish with the child, I said, what would you like to do? What goal for yourself? And what goal for your whole family? What would you like to do this summer? And they go, well, I don't know. I have never really thought about it. And I was saying, well, what would you see? She said, well, maybe I'd like to move out of this apartment. I'd like to have my home, or maybe I want to work, or I want to take a computer class. I just kind of challenge them to think, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what is it? Because we're here now to help you and support you and give you the resources to make that happen. And when they see their kids moving and learning and changing, they want to too. So it's usually, not a problem to get them to accept us into the family.
Once they accept you, what is some of the advice you give them? I mean, how can a parent go about establishing structure and routine in their homes, from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed? I mean, just something simple.
I think the most simple thing is meal times. It's always important sometimes, maybe if you come from a family where maybe you're not used to having breakfast. I can remember my child, he brought the cornflakes and the milk and everything into the bedroom. And so as they're exposed to Head Start, they have breakfast, they have snacks.
At the table.
Yes, and it is in a family style, so that's right. So they come to expect those things. So that's just a little thing, but they'll say, Mom, I want breakfast, let's, have breakfast. And it might not be a big course, but it would be cornflakes, milk, whatever. But that's kind of a little ways that it starts to change, because maybe before they weren't taking naps, and now they do, but at first that's what the other kids are doing. They do that. So when they go home, they will say, Mom, I want to take a nap, or, let's, some quiet time. So that's something that they learn, and they have a routine after they eat. They brush their teeth. Some of them have like fluoride if they're not taking it at home. And it's really cute because they all have their little toothbrushes with their names on it. And so they learn things and they take that home. And so it's really surprising. You might think people are really unstructured, but when it comes to their children, they kind of find some motivation to get some things done. They like their kids to have clothes and to be clean, and they don't want other people to think that they don't care about their kids. I mean, I think you can find through the worst families, scenarios. Maybe they might be involved in gangs or whatever. They're proud of their kids. You got to see how they dress them. We take pride in different places, so we just need to find out where that place is. And I think the children is one of the best places to start that.
Well, let's say, I'm glad you brought up gangs and petty criminal behavior. Let's say you're from a family where there's a lot of negativity. Drugs, mama drunk every night, daddy involved in domestic violence, whooping up on mom. I mean, let's get for real. What advice could you give a family in a very negative situation and try to get control of their family, get control of their lives, so they can establish a healthy structure and routine for that child?
Well, you have to kind of start where that person is. Like I say, find what might motivate them to change, because we can't change them. They need to want that for themselves. So like I say, a lot of times having the child and wanting the best for them might clue them off. Maybe not to work, but maybe to get some help with their problem, with drinking, and I guess sometimes in our culture, it seems like programs, what's that? I don't want those people in my life. But nobody knows what that motivational little tickler is in the back of your mind. But sometimes if you're a teen mom and you dropped out of school, maybe now you might say, well, I would like to get involved in something because I'd like to see something better for myself. Or I'm in a relationship and, I know this man is, beating me, but I thought this is what I need to do. I ran away from home and I got married, and so, but all I can say is I sit down and talk to him and say, it's not appropriate for you to be abused. You don't really deserve that. You are somebody, your children are somebody. And most certainly if you want to, you can get help. And sometimes getting help is not, that's not really the answer right away. They're not willing to do that. But I ask them if they'll just try to write it down. Write all the bad things down, write all the good things down, and then put them in control some kind of way. And like I say, making a little goal, sometimes if they can see they're achieved, that makes all the difference. And if they can do little things, they can do really big things. So that's the only clue. I mean, if we knew if it was like an aspirin, we just take it and they do it. You never know what is going to make a person want to change. And who's to say their way is wrong and our way is right? But we just have to think of what is the best. And somehow they can see that in children, where they can't see it through other forms. And they might see if they have a lot of friends drinking or inappropriate music or whatever, like when I come into the home, sometimes I hear the rap or something like that on, and I won't say anything, but they'll take it off. And because they don't want you to think that that's what their kids are hearing, But when they usually talk to me, it's what they want the best for them. Like they want them to read, or they want them to count, or they don't want them to be hurt, or they don't want them to fight. No matter how you're involved in gangs or drugs or alcohol or abuse, even the abusive people, they're people too. And so it's a lot of reasons, maybe some other dysfunctions that happen in their life. So therefore, that's why they might want to change it, because their mom and dad might have drank and fought and whatever, but they say, this is my chance, the ball stops here. And so I can really change, my life now. So like I say, we really don't know the exact answer, but usually we can find the motivation through the children that makes the difference. And you can just see sometimes the children are so afraid when they first come to school. They don't know what to expect. And they kind of want mom or home because that's all they know. But once they get in with other children and they're challenged in so many ways at Head Start with science, they have a dial corner, housekeeping. Every holiday there's something really great going on at the center. They have wonderful songs, and they take this back home. They see a structure at school, and they kind of bring it with them. They bring homework home that suggests the Amani homework about good things and bad things, if smoking or drinking or pills. And they'll tell their mom, Mama, why you smoke those cigarettes, or why are you drinking, and these pills, this is poison, Mom. What is this? Mr. Yuck? So they are our best people. When you give to them, they take it right back and give it to their families. And sometimes we have brothers and sisters in a program, and they help one another a lot.
Every day praise your child. Every day tell him or her that they are special, that they are intelligent, and they will grow up to accomplish great things in life. This message brought to you by Head Start TV, because at Head Start TV, we believe parents are the best teacher.
Hi, my name's James Willis, and I'd like to take time to talk to you about the structure in my life and my routines in my life every day. Each morning, I usually wake up in the morning, I fix breakfast for the kids, I get them dressed, and we are off to school. Now, if I cannot do it one day, my fiance does it for me. Okay, she will get the kids dressed, fix breakfast for them. Usually like one day she'll have to work earlier or later, then one day I'll have to work earlier or later. And so we try to give each other, time to take care of the family by doing this. And it helps us better by taking turns with one another to help the kids and get the kids ready. So it gives us a chance to do other things and get on and do things with our life and to help each me and her. And so then once we have gotten the kids, dressed and we get them on the bus, and one of them goes to a different school, he gets on the school bus, and he can go right outside the door and get on that bus. And then like the school that I'm at right now, we have to bring him here. And so we usually come here and stay a while with the kids and help the kids once we're here. And we do that as a routine, so, like for some of the parents that can't show up, it, it just helps the teachers and some of the staff here get along with the kids and try to, get better help with them.
I have Eric. Eric is one of the transitional people from Albina Head Start. Eric, what's going on in this group right now?
Right now what they're doing is all the kids are getting a chance to practice some free movement, and what they're learning are large motor skills where they can figure out how their bodies work and actually get a chance with some structure and routine like we're talking about to exercise and to move around and to get a little feel for rhythm and for movement, and just a chance to express themselves in a way where they're not getting in trouble and not acting crazy, but in a set, structured way, get a little bit of movement, a little bit of activity, and just get a chance to move their bodies around and have some fun with what they're doing.
How can a parent translate what they're learning here in Head Start in this large motor skill group to what the children, how they behave at home?
Well, if you can set up some kind of structure or some kind of routine where you can move with your children or talk to them about, even if it's just dancing to music or moving around or stretching or, going, if you're outside, if you're able to be outside and it's not raining too much, doing a little tumbling or doing any kind of activity where they can get their bodies moving and they can learn some coordination. And, at this age, they just have so much energy. We need to set up a way to let them get some of that out where they're not always getting in trouble for what they're doing.
Yeah, I hear a lot of parents tell their child, sit down, be quiet, sit down, be quiet, be still, don't do that, don't do that. I mean, sometimes we forget how it is to be a 3- and 4-year-old.
Yeah, and if you give them a chance in a structured way to get some of that out, then maybe at some of the times where you need for them to be quiet or you need for them to be sitting down, then you can talk to about how, if they can handle that for this period of time, that they're going to get a chance to go outside and move, and that they know that you've done that with them before, and that they know that they'll have a chance to do that. So you can have a little bit of what you need when you need them to be quiet and be still, and give them a little of what they need when they need to get out and be moving.
Okay, from the time that the baby's born, structure can begin. Examples of this would be when the baby's being held, to rock the baby a certain way, to hold the baby a certain way. Even when the baby is very young, reading to them, like before they go to bed at night, can set a definite routine. This helps provide some predictability for the child, and they do learn that very young, that certain things happen at certain times, whether it's a quiet song being sung to them, a story being read to them, whatever the routine happens to be. And they learn to expect this, and it becomes very comforting and secure for them to have this happen. And an important part of this too is that if someone else is going to be with your child at bedtime, that they know what that routine is. And for our teen parents, we encourage them that they aren't always there with the child, maybe because of school or study time or whatever, but that they need to make sure that the caregiver is providing this structure and continuity for the child, so the child knows what's happening, and it gives them the sense of security.
Now, let's move up to a 3- and 5-year-old. Let's say that hasn't happened, and we know a lot of young moms, because they never had structure and routine in their lives, they can't provide it for their baby, let alone their preschool. And it's so important. What would you say to a parent on instructing how should that parent establish structure and routine in their homes?
I think it's never too late to start, although it's definitely better if you start from the time that the child is an infant. But getting the child into a routine, they're going to Head Start today. Okay, these are the kind of things that happen before they go to Head Start each day. And you may want to start with 1 or 2 simple little routine things. You may want to even ask the child, what would you like to do each day before you do this? And of course you have to keep in mind that as the child grows and as the child learns more and different things to do, that you need to keep in mind that they're going to want to change from time to time what their routine is, and that's something that the child and the parent would plan together. And again, this helps with the routine and structure.
Okay, well, Mary, thank you for taking time out of your day. Any additional advice you'd like to give the parents? You've raised your children, and now we have a new group of parents coming up, new group of children. They have an exciting, difficult future ahead of them. Any advice?
Help the children know that you're always there for them. Help them know that even if you're angry at what they do, you still love them, and that what you're doing is not out of anger, it's out of caring for them.
Every day of the
Reading to your child will give him or her a head start in life. So look into those beautiful eyes and read to your child. This message brought to you by Head Start TV, because at Head Start TV, we believe parents are the best teacher. Hi, welcome back to Albina Head Start's Head Start TV, a nationally syndicated parent education video. These videos are different because parents are our teachers, not someone with a PhD. Not to say that folks with PhDs can't teach parenting, but we want to approach parenting education from a different angle, from the angle of the parents, especially parents in Head Start. With me is a parent, and may I have your name, please?
Angela Johnson.
Angela, your child is in Head Start, right?
Yes.
Tell me, how's she doing, and how do you feel about some of the services Head Start provides?
She's doing real good. She's excelling. She's a quick child and a quick learner anyway. And I feel that the Head Start program and the way the teachers work with the kids are an excellent program, and it helps the kids with their social skills and building their self-esteem. And they seem to excel better when they get into the public schools.
How do they go about doing this? Do you volunteer in the classroom? Have you seen what they've done in the classroom?
Yes, I have sometimes. I don't go in all the time, but I see the way that with my daughter progressing in her reading skills and everything else, that it's a lot better than what it was when she first went in 2 years ago.
Our topic is structure and routine. What are among the structure and routine, or rather, what is the structure in your home, and what type of routine have you established?
Well, I'm not quite sure what the structure is, but with the routine, it's there's a set routine. At certain times we do certain things, like at night at 8 o'clock, it's bedtime. In the morning, it's up, wash your face, brush your teeth, eat breakfast, get ready, get dressed, and out the door we go. And then from there, it's what the schools, their routine at schools and what they've got set up for each and every day.
And how has that helped you in raising your family?
Oh, gosh. It's helped me continue with this, what's the word? Consistency of things and keeping it together, and it helps me be a stronger parent in a single parent household.
If you are not working or going to school, watching TV all day, or generally not trying to improve yourself, think of the message you are sending your children. So expect more out of yourself so that your child can expect more out of life. This message is brought to you by Head Start TV, because at Head Start TV, we believe parents are the best teacher. Hi, welcome back to Albina Head Start's Head Start TV. I have with me Norma Mullins, and Norma works at Yon Youth Care Center. They are a facility for teenagers, sort of like a group home for young men. Is that right, Norma?
Correct, yes.
And if you don't establish structure and routine in your life, they're going to end up in a place like Norma. Now, although Norma's a good sister and we want your kids to interact with her, we'd rather have them meet Norma at church or on the streets or volunteering their time elsewhere. Norma, tell me how structure and routine, not having structure and routine, the lack of structure and routine impacts a child. So when they grow up and become a teenager, unfortunately, they end up in a place such as Yon Youth Care Center.
I think it's important for kids to have structure from an early age on. Kids need to know that they're not free to just pretty much do whatever they want to do. So when there's structure in place, kids kind of like know that at this time we're preparing to do this, and when we finish this, we're going to move to the next part of our day, and so on throughout a day. When kids are allowed to pretty much to get up out the bed and forget about the fact that they're at school in the next 45 minutes, an hour. If kids are allowed to just buzz past breakfast time, and that's going to catch up with them. I've noticed that that's going to catch up with them at some point of the day before lunchtime actually It's time for lunch. So when kids are allowed to do their own thing, for lack of a better term, you see that before the end of the day is over, there's a breakdown somewhere. And breakdowns are normally caused because of a lack of structure.
What do you mean by breakdown?
Breakdown meaning that you're going to see them phase out, okay? They'll phase in and phase out. When they should be reading, you may see them with their heads down. When they should be studying, you may see them kicking at another kid's chair, or those type of things is basically what I mean, the breakdown.
How about the lack of structure and routine helps them end up in a place like Yon Youth Care Facility, the breakdown of the family?
Yeah, of course. Because if a kid is used to doing what he wants to do, then at some point that's going to catch up with him. You know, people usually see it first at school. You know, kids are unable to function a full day in school because the board, the structure hasn't been there. They don't know that you use different times to accomplish different things. And kids usually start fading out. They'll start skipping school. When they're out there skipping school, they're going to find something to do. 9 times out of 10, it's not positive stuff. They start getting into a situation where the law is involved. And once you get into that court system, 9 times out of 10, you will see either my program or a program similar to ours.
If you're driving through the country on a lazy afternoon, or you're watching your children playing after school, they seem to be so unaware of, I know, the things that they'll soon have to take care of. We've got to do something, yeah, to save the children. Soon it will be their turns to try and save the world. Right now they seem to play such a small part of the things that they'll soon be right at the heart of. My little Tommy, he said he wants to be a fireman. And little Mary, she said she got to teach school. If we know all we say we know about the problems, save the children. Soon it will be their turns to try and save the world. We've got to do something, yeah, to save the children. To save the children. To save the children.
You know, the sad thing, if you don't establish structure and routine in your family, they will end up incarcerated or in some parts of the criminal justice system. In communities all over the country, there are youth homes, and here we have the director of the youth home. You've heard some of his people talk, the Yon Youth Home. Rodney, if a child doesn't have structure and routine in their lives, will they end up in some area of the criminal justice system or in a home like yours?
Yeah, I can almost guarantee it. I'd say 99% of the kids that we see are kids who don't have a foundation. They don't have a place to start. There's no boundaries for them to know what's right, what's wrong. So they go out, and like most teenagers, which is normal for any teenager, is to go out and try to discover their world, discover their identity. And you think they haven't listened to you as they were coming up. You know, you think they're throwing out all those ethics, morals, all those things you taught them as small children, but that's when it starts coming back. They're going to go out there and bump their heads a little bit, but kids who have gotten that structure early on, when they bump their head, they remember that lesson that mom or dad taught them, and then they can begin to start integrating that into their adulthood. What we're seeing, the kids we get oftentimes don't have that, and so they will listen to their peers, and with a lot of the gang activity going on, these guys are telling them, you know, you can sell drugs, you can do all these other things, so they go that route. Some of the young girls will listen to guys about what love is all about, and they're not giving them real love. They're just giving them, you know, some quick emotion that's probably going to lead to a baby that, you know, they're not ready for, and that whole cycle continues. So all that you need to, parents need to tell their kids, give them that structure. They need to go ahead and demand those things, little things like clean your room. I mean, that's important because that teaches a work ethic. You will help me rake the leaves. You will help me cut the grass. You will help me wash the dishes, you know, and give them that responsibility, and kids will appreciate that. I know some people are against spanking, so I won't get into that issue, but I will say that you need to show your kids discipline. I mean, when you discipline your child, you show love. A lot of kids would act like they wouldn't want to be disciplined, but somehow, subconsciously, it's a way of you saying, I care enough about you to stop you from going out and hurting yourself or hurting others with that activity that you're doing. So structure and giving kids routines early on and getting them used to life, because that's what the job place is all about. You got to be there, you know, 8 to 4. If you're not there at 8, you're going to lose your job. You know, if you don't get your assignments done on time, you're going to lose your job. All these things that are happening in school, that, you know, that's all preparation for what real life is all about. You know, all these things are smaller pieces of what it really comes out to be when you get our age, and so when you supposedly grow up, you know. So it's I'd say structure probably is the number one thing, and you don't have to have a lot of degrees and all that to do it. It's common sense. You know, it's common sense. A kid should have good personal hygiene. You know, kids should be home at certain times. They should have certain expectations. So all that, I guess, what you know, relates to what builds the character in a kid and makes a kid who he is, and then the adult they grow up to be.
Our snack person is Martisha. She's going to go wash her hands. I'm going to show you some letters. My letter person is DeAnthony. DeAnthony, would you come up here and get looking eyes on. We're looking up here so that we can look at letters. Show it to everyone. And there is a monkey. Everyone
great big expression of happiness, boy, you couldn't miss. With a dozen roses, such would astound you. The joy of children laughing around you. These are the makings of you. It is true, the makings of you. The righteous way to go, little one would know or believe if I told them so. You're second to none, the love of all mankind should reflect some sign of these words I've tried to recite. They are close but not quite, almost impossible to do, reciting the makings of you.
Here's one. D'Anthony's going to show you one more. What letter is this? It's a doll, and this is the letter D.
The righteous way to go, little one would know or believe if I told them so. You're second to none, the love of all mankind should reflect some sign of these words I've tried to recite. They are close but not quite, almost impossible to do, reciting the makings of you.
We're ready. Oh, it's okay. Here we go. Are you ready? We're going to computer land.
Thank you for watching Head Start TV. Parenting education for your best investment, our children. Head Start TV, produced by Albina Head Start, because we believe it takes an entire community to raise a child.